All right, so you sent over a ton of info about GSM blends.
Yeah.
Looks like you're ready to get pretty serious about this whole wine thing.
I've been doing a lot of research.
We are going to take a deep dive into the world of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre,
Sounds good.
from their French roots
Mm-hmm.
to their global takeover. This blend has a fascinating story to tell.
It really does.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is
Yeah.
how this blend, born in a very specific corner of France,
Mm-hmm.
has resonated with winemakers all over the world.
Yeah.
Each region brings its own unique twist,
Right.
which makes exploring GSM incredibly rewarding.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So first things first,
Okay.
what makes a wine a GSM in the first place? I know it's a blend,
Right.
but what's the deal with these three grapes?
Well,
Why these three?
think of it like an all-star team.
Okay.
Each grape brings its A game to create a wine that's more than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
Grenache, for example, is our fruit-forward friend.
Mm.
It brings ripe, juicy flavors like strawberries and raspberries,
Okay.
and often a touch of spice,
Mm-hmm.
think cinnamon,
Yeah.
or even a hint of white pepper.
So Grenache is the life of the party.
Exactly. Then you've got Syrah,
Okay.
which adds structure and intensity.
Okay.
Syrah is all about dark fruit flavors, like blackberries and plums with a peppery kick.
Okay.
And what's fascinating about Syrah is that it often has this subtle floral aroma.
Really?
Violets, believe it or not.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So we've got fruit and spice and flowers.
Right.
What about the third musketeer, Mourvedre? What's its style?
Mourvedre brings the earthiness and rustic charm.
Mm,
Think leathery notes,
okay.
maybe a touch of licorice or dried herbs.
Interesting.
It's the grape that adds depth and complexity,
Mm.
and it also plays a key role in the wine's aging potential.
So it kind of rounds it all out.
Exactly. It adds another dimension.
Okay, I'm already getting thirsty.
Yeah.
But to really understand GSM, we need to talk about its origins, right? The Rhone Valley in France.
Absolutely.
So the Rhone is considered the birthplace of this iconic blend, and it's where winemakers have been perfecting the art of GSM for centuries.
It's a long history of winemaking in that region.
So let's talk terroir.
Okay.
How does the Rhone Valley's climate and soil affect the taste of these wines?
Well, the Rhone Valley has a Mediterranean climate,
Mm-hmm.
which means warm, dry summers and mild winters.
Yeah.
That's ideal for these grapes to ripen fully and would develop those concentrated flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And the soils are incredibly diverse,
Right.
ranging from granite and schist in the north
Okay.
to clay and limestone in the south.
Yeah.
These variations in soil play a huge role in the style of the wines produced.
And there's a big difference between North and South Rhone wines, right? And
That's a key distinction to understand.
okay.
In the northern Rhone, Syrah reigns supreme.
Okay.
The wines tend to be powerful, elegant, and age-worthy.
Mm-hmm.
A classic example is Côte Rôtie,
Okay.
known for its steep hillsides and granite soils,
Mm.
which produce incredibly intense Syrah-dominant GSMs.
Okay.
These wines have firm tannins, that drying sensation you get on your palate,
Right.
which contribute to their structure and aging potential.
Côte Rôtie sounds pretty serious.
It is.
Okay.
And then you've got the southern Rhone,
Okay.
which is warmer and sunnier.
Mm.
Here, Grenache takes the lead,
Right.
and the lines are known for being lush, spicy,
Okay.
and often have a more approachable style.
So a little bit more easy drinking.
Exactly.
And we have to mention Châteauneuf-du-Pape, right?
Oh, of course.
It's like the rock star of Southern Rhone wines.
That's legendary.
What made Châteauneuf-du-Pape so unique is that it allows up to 13 different grape varietals in the blend,
Right.
including Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre.
Uh-huh.
This creates an incredibly complex and layered wine with
Yeah.
a huge range of flavor possibilities.
It really does.
Think ripe red and black fruits,
Mm.
those signature garrigue notes, which, by the way, refer to the wild herbs like thyme and rosemary that grow throughout the region,
Yeah.
and a touch of spice.
Right.
It's a wine that can age beautifully for decades.
Absolutely.
13 grapes.
Yeah.
That's a lot to juggle.
It is a lot to balance.
It sounds like the winemakers in Châteauneuf-du-Pape are true masters of their craft.
Oh, they are.
And whether it's north or south, the Rhone Valley has a system in place to ensure the quality and authenticity of its wines.
Uh-huh.
The Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée, or AOC system.
Right.
I've heard about that. It's like
Yeah.
a quality guarantee.
Exactly. The AOC system sets strict regulations
Okay.
for grape varieties, vineyard practices,
Mm-hmm.
and winemaking techniques.
So it's really controlling every step of the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
basically France's way of protecting the reputation of its wine regions
Right.
and making sure consumers know what they're getting.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty rigorous process.
It is.
But it's good to know that there's a system in place to protect these iconic wines.
Absolutely. And it's a system that has helped to elevate the status of GSM blends worldwide.
Speaking of worldwide, I know GSM isn't just confined to the Rhone Valley anymore, right?
That's right.
Our sources mention some other interesting French regions that are producing GSM blends.
Yeah, Languedoc-Roussillon,
Okay.
another sun-drenched region in southern France, has really embraced GSM.
Mm-hmm.
This area is known for its Mediterranean climate-diverse soils
Right.
and a long history of winemaking.
And what about the style of GSMs coming from Languedoc-Roussillon?
Okay.
How do they compare to their Rhone counterparts?
Well, you'll often find GSMs from Languedoc-Roussillon to be full-bodied and fruit-forward
Okay.
with those characteristic Garrigue notes,
Mm-hmm.
but they also tend to be more approachable and offer great value for the money.
Approachable and good value.
Yeah,
That sounds promising.
it is.
Any specific areas within Languedoc-Roussillon that you'd recommend checking out?
Corbière is a great place to start.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the largest appellations in the region,
Mm-hmm.
and they produce some truly delicious GSMs.
Really?
Yeah, they're typically fruit-driven
Okay.
with notes of black cherry licorice and herbs.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and they're a perfect example of how Languedoc-Roussillon can offer quality GSM blends
Right.
at a fraction of the price of some of those pricier Rhone wines.
So if you're looking to explore GSM without breaking the bank,
Yeah,
Corbière is the way to go.
exactly. It's a hidden gem for GSM lovers.
Okay.
And then there's Provence.
Okay.
You might be surprised to hear that this region,
Uh-huh.
known for its rosé,
Right.
also produces some delightful GSM blends.
Provence.
Yeah.
The land of pale pink wines. I
Yeah.
never would have guessed.
It is interesting.
What's the style like?
Well, it's Provence, so you can expect a lighter and fresher style,
Mm-hmm.
perfect for those warm summer days.
Okay.
Think bright red fruit,
Yeah.
delicate floral notes,
Mm.
and a touch of spice.
So it's still recognizable as a GSM,
It is.
but it's got that Provençal lightness.
Exactly.
They might not have the intensity or aging potential of a Northern Rhone GSM,
Right?
but they're incredibly charming and food-friendly.
They are.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing how GSM can take on so many different personalities depending on where it's made.
It really is.
But it seems like this blend's popularity hasn't stopped at France's borders.
No, it hasn't.
It's gone global.
Absolutely.
And it's fascinating to see how winemakers around the world have interpreted this classic blend.
It really is.
Australia immediately comes to mind.
Uh-huh.
They have a reputation for big, bold wines.
Right.
And I can only imagine what they're doing with GSM.
You're right on the money. Australian GSMs are known for their richness intensity
Okay.
and often a generous use of oak.
So we're going big.
We are.
Think of ripe fruit,
Uh-huh.
spice,
Yeah.
and sometimes even chocolatey notes.
Yeah.
Chocolatey notes in wine. I'm intrigued.
I know, it's interesting.
What gives them that characteristic?
It's often a combination of factors.
Okay.
The warm climate allows the grapes to develop those rich, concentrated flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And Australian winemakers often use American oak barrels for aging,
Right.
which can impart those chocolate and coffee notes.
So it's a combination of terroir and winemaking techniques.
Precise.
And within Australia, there are some regions that are particularly renowned for their GSM blends.
Yes. The Barossa Valley, for example,
Okay.
is famous for its powerful Shiraz. That's what they
Yeah.
call Syrah in Australia.
Right.
And they produce some truly stunning GSMs.
Barossa Valley, it's like the land of big, bold flavors.
It is.
Their GSMs are typically full-bodied
Mhm.
with rich, dark fruit,
Yeah.
peppery spice,
Yeah.
and often a noticeable oak influence.
Right.
These are wines that can definitely stand the test of time.
They can.
I'm adding Barossa to my wine travel bucket list.
It's a good one.
Any other Australian regions we should be on the lookout for?
McLaren Vale is another great one. It's a coastal region,
Uh-huh.
so the wines have a bit more freshness and vibrancy compared to the Barossa powerhouses.
Okay.
They still have plenty of fruit and spice,
Yeah.
but there's also a lovely acidity that keeps them balanced.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot between ripeness and freshness.
Exactly.
And McLaren Vale also has a wide range of soil types, which
Okay.
adds another layer of complexity to their GSMs.
It does.
You might find wines with earthy notes, mineral nuances,
Mm-hmm.
or even a hint of salinity from the ocean breezes.
Right.
It sounds like McLaren Vale offers a lot of diversity for GSM lovers to explore.
It does.
Now, what about the U.S.?
Okay.
I know California winemakers are always up for experimenting with different blends.
Yes, they are.
So I'm curious about their take on GSM.
California has definitely embraced GSM.
Okay.
They're producing some fantastic examples of the blend,
Uh-huh.
often with a ripe, fruit-forward style that reflects the California sunshine.
California sunshine in a bottle. I can get behind that.
I think so.
What should we be looking for in a California GSM?
Well, you can expect those classic GSM flavors,
Mm-hmm.
red and black berries, spice,
Yeah.
and earthy notes, but often with a more opulent and jammy character.
It's like really concentrated fruit.
Yeah,
And Californian winemakers aren't shy about using oak.
that's right.
So you'll often find those vanilla and toasty notes as well.
Uh-huh.
So it's a bit bolder and more fruit forward than some of the old world styles we've talked about.
Exactly.
And within California, Paso Robles is a region that's really making a name for itself with GSM blends.
It is.
Paso Robles.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about their wines.
Yeah, it's a great area.
What is it about Paso Robles that makes it such a good fit for GSM?
Paso Robles has this ideal combination of warm days,
Okay.
cool nights,
Mm-hmm.
and diverse soils,
Okay.
which allows the grapes to ripen fully while retaining freshness and acidity.
Right, so they get that ripeness, but they also have that acidity to keep the wines balanced. And they're not afraid to experiment with different winemaking techniques.
No, they are not.
So you'll find a wide range of styles.
Yeah.
From elegant and restrained to big and bold.
It's a very diverse region.
It sounds like Paso Robles is a region with a lot to offer GSM enthusiasts.
It is.
Now, we can't forget about South Africa.
Right.
They've been making waves in the wine world lately.
They have.
And I'm curious to know what they're bringing to the GSM table.
South Africa is crafting some truly unique GSM blends
Okay.
that showcase the country's diverse terroirs
Mm-hmm.
and innovative winemaking spirit.
Okay.
They often have this beautiful balance between ripe fruit and vibrant acidity,
Okay.
with a distinctive savory character that sets them apart.
Savory character. What does that mean in terms of flavor?
Think about notes of herbs, spices,
Yeah.
maybe even a touch of smoked meat or cured olives.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it adds another layer.
It's a complexity that adds another dimension to the wine
Right.
and makes it incredibly food-friendly. It sounds like South Africa is really putting its own stamp on GSM.
They are.
And any specific regions within South Africa that you'd recommend exploring?
Stellenbosch is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's one of South Africa's oldest and most prestigious wine regions,
Mm-hmm.
and they're known for producing elegant, complex wines.
Okay.
Their GSMs often showcase notes of blackfoot pepper
Yeah.
and fynbos, which
Okay.
is the local vegetation that adds those unique savory notes.
Stellenbosch.
Uh-huh.
Another region with a beautiful name.
It is a nice name.
And what about those more adventurous winemakers we hear about in South Africa?
Right.
Are they doing anything interesting with GSM?
Absolutely. Swartland,
Okay.
a region known for its dry-farmed old vine vineyards,
Uh-huh.
and its focus on natural winemaking
Oh, I see.
is producing some truly exciting GSM blends.
Wow.
They often have this raw, untamed quality
Okay.
with expressive fruit, bright acidity,
Yeah.
and a distinct minerality that reflects the unique terroir of the region.
It sounds like Swartland is the place to go if you're looking for GSM with a bit of an edge.
Exactly. They're not afraid to push boundaries and experiment.
I like that.
Yeah,
Which makes their GSMs incredibly captivating.
they are.
So we've got this classic blend from the Rhone Valley,
Mm-hmm.
and winemakers around the world are putting their own spin on it.
They are.
It's amazing to see how GSM has evolved and adapted to different regions and winemaking styles.
It really is a global phenomena.
But what is it about the blending process itself that makes GSM so special?
Yeah.
Is there a set formula?
That's where it gets really interesting. There's no magic formula for a GSM blend.
Okay.
Winemakers have a lot of creative freedom to play with the proportions of each grape.
Right.
And that's what makes exploring GSM so exciting. You never know what you're going to get.
So it's all about the winemaker's vision
It is.
and how they want to express the character of the blend.
Exactly. Some winemakers might go for a Grenache-dominant blend,
Right.
for a softer fruit-forward style, while others might emphasize Syrah
Mm-hmm.
for more structure and spice.
So you can really get a wide range of styles just depending on those proportions.
You can.
And the Mourvedre adds that crucial element of complexity and aging potential.
Absolutely. It's the backbone of the blend.
It's all about finding the right balance
Right.
and creating a wine that reflects the winemaker's style and the unique characteristics of the vineyard.
Exactly.
And I imagine there are some other factors that come into play as well, right?
Yeah.
Like the specific vineyard site
Uh-huh.
and the winemaking techniques used.
Absolutely. The vineyard site is crucial.
Right.
The soil type,
Yeah.
the climate, the altitude,
Right.
all of these factors influence the character of the grapes
Uh-huh.
and ultimately the final wine.
So even if two winemakers are using the same grape varieties, their GSMs can taste completely different depending on where those grapes were grown.
That's right. It all comes back to terroir.
It's a reminder that wine is truly a product of both nature and human craftsmanship.
Exactly. It's that interplay that makes it so fascinating.
And then there are the winemaking decisions that come into play.
Right.
How long do you macerate the grapes?
Yeah.
What kind of yeast do you use for fermentation?
Uh-huh.
Do you age the wine in oak barrels?
Right.
All of these choices have a profound impact on the final style of the GSM.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Each decision shapes the wine.
So it's a complex process with a lot of variables at play.
It is.
But that's what makes GSM so fascinating. There's
Yep.
always something new to discover.
Yeah.
Always another layer to peel back.
I agree.
Well, you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Good.
I'm ready to dive deeper into this world of GSM and see what treasures I can uncover.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you find. It's a journey that'll take you all over the world.
It really is.
We've talked about how GSM has gone global.
Right.
Let's revisit some of those regions and dig a little deeper
Okay.
into what makes their expressions of this blend so unique.
Okay. I'm game. I'm especially curious about the Rhone Valley. Okay.
Since it's the OG home of GSM.
Right.
You mentioned that there are distinct differences between the wines from the north and south.
Yes.
What should we be looking for when we're trying to understand those regional nuances?
Well, let's start with the Northern Rhone,
Okay.
where Syrah takes center stage.
Mm-hmm.
The wines here are known for their structure elegance
Right.
and incredible aging potential.
Okay.
Think of a Northern Rhone GSM as a tightly wound coil.
Okay.
It needs time to unfurl and reveal its complexities.
Oh, it sounds like patience is key with these wines.
Absolutely. The tannins in a young Northern Rhone GSM can be quite powerful.
Yeah.
So it's best to give them a few years in the cellar to soften and integrate.
To mellow out a bit.
Right. But the reward is worth the wait.
Okay, I'm sold. So besides patience,
Yeah.
what are some of the key characteristics that define a Northern Rhone GSM?
While the wines are typically deeply colored,
Okay.
with aromas of dark fruits like blackberries and plums.
Often accompanied by that intriguing violet note that Syrah is known for.
Right.
And on the palate, you'll experience firm tannins, vibrant acidity,
Okay.
and a distinct minerality that comes from the granite soils of the region.
Right, from the terroir.
Exactly. It's a wine that demands your attention
Okay.
and lingers on the palate long after you've taken a sip.
It sounds like a wine for a special occasion.
It is.
Something to savor and contemplate.
Absolutely. And then you have the Southern Rhone,
Okay.
which is a whole different ballgame.
Okay, bring it on.
Here, the climate is warmer, the sun is brighter,
Mm.
and Grenache is the star of the show.
Okay.
The wines are typically more fruit-forward,
Okay.
with a luscious texture and a warmth that reflects the Mediterranean sunshine.
I'm getting a sense of sunshine and laid-back vibes just thinking about it.
That's the Southern Rhone in a nutshell.
I love it.
Their GSMs are all about generous fruit spice and a sense of place.
Okay.
Think about flavors like ripe strawberries, raspberries, sometimes a touch of kirsch,
Mm.
which, by the way, is that lovely cherry liqueur flavor that you sometimes get in Grenache-based wines.
Right.
And then there are those signature garrigue notes,
Yes.
that blend of wild herbs like thyme, rosemary, and lavender that grow throughout the region.
It's such a beautiful word.
It is.
Garrigue. It sounds so evocative.
It does.
Like you can practically smell the herbs growing on the hillsides.
It's one of those aromas that transports you instantly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have to talk about Châteauneuf-du-Pape,
Ah, yes.
the crown jewel of the Southern Rhone.
The one with the 13 grapes. Tell me more about why that's so unique.
Okay.
What it means for the taste of the wine.
Well, imagine a winemaker's palette with 13 different colors to choose from.
Okay.
That's what Châteauneuf-du-Pape is all about.
Wow.
The blend can include up to 13 grape varietals,
Right.
which allows for an incredible complexity
Yeah.
and a wide range of flavor profiles.
It must be so hard to blend.
It is a skill.
Yeah.
You might find wines with rich, dark fruit, spicy notes, earthy undertones, hints of herbs, and even floral aromas,
Wow.
all woven together into a harmonious whole.
That's incredible.
It is. And because of its complexity and the quality of the grapes grown in the region, Chateauneuf du Pape has exceptional aging potential.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
These wines can evolve beautifully for decades,
Wow.
becoming more nuanced and layered with time. It's a collector's dream.
I can see why it has such a legendary status.
It's earned it.
So we've explored the classic expressions of GSM and its birthplace.
Right.
But now let's hop across the globe and see how this blend is interpreted in other wine regions.
Okay, sounds good.
Australia, for instance, is known for its big, bold wines. What's their take on GSM?
Australia has really embraced GSM and made it their own.
Okay.
Their wines are typically characterized by ripe, concentrated fruit,
Right.
a generous use of oak,
Okay.
and a full-bodied style that reflects the country's warm climate.
So we're talking sunshine in a glass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Australian winemakers aren't afraid to let those grapes ripen fully,
Hmm.
and they often use American oak barrels,
Right.
which impart flavors like vanilla coconut and sometimes even chocolate.
Wait, chocolate notes in wine. How does that work?
I know it's interesting.
Is it like a subtle hint, or can you actually taste chocolate?
It's more of a subtle nuance,
Okay.
like a whisper of dark chocolate or cocoa powder.
Okay.
It comes from compounds in the wine that are also found in chocolate,
Okay.
and those flavors are often accentuated by the oak aging.
That's so interesting.
It is.
Okay, I'm definitely adding Australian GSM to my list of wines to try.
Good choice.
Are there any specific regions within Australia that stand out for their GSMs?
The Barossa Valley is the classic example.
Okay.
It's known for its Shiraz-dominant wines,
Right.
and their GSMs are no exception.
Okay.
Think powerful, full-bodied wines with intense dark fruit, peppery spice, and a noticeable oak influence.
It sounds like the Barossa Valley is a GSM lover's paradise.
It is. And then you have McLaren Vale,
Okay.
which is a bit cooler and more coastal.
Right.
Their GSMs tend to have a little more restraint and elegance,
Mm-hmm.
with bright acidity balancing the ripe fruit.
So it's a bit more refined compared to the Barossa powerhouses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
McLaren Vale is also known for its diverse soil types,
Right.
which add another layer of complexity to the wines.
Okay.
You might find GSMs with subtle, earthy notes, mineral nuances, or even a hint of salinity from the ocean breezes.
Salinity in wine. That sounds intriguing.
It is.
What is that like?
It's like a whisper of the sea,
Okay.
adding a touch of freshness and complexity to the wine.
Interesting.
It's more common in wines from coastal regions,
Makes sense.
where the vineyards are exposed to ocean spray.
So it's picking up a little bit of that sea air.
Exactly.
I'm learning so much about GSM. Now I'm curious about California's take on this blend.
Okay.
I know they're known for their fruit-forward wines.
Yes.
So I'm imagining California GSMs are bursting with sunshine and flavor.
You're right on the mark.
Ah,
California has really embraced GSM, and their wines often showcase that ripe, juicy fruit that the state is famous for.
so what sets California GSMs apart from the styles we've talked about so far?
Well, they tend to be bolder and more fruit-forward than their old world counterparts,
Okay.
with those classic GSM flavors, red and black berries, spice, and earthy notes,
Yeah.
amplified by the California sunshine.
And California winemakers aren't shy about using oak.
That's right.
So you'll often find those vanilla toast and spice notes from the barrel aging.
Absolutely. It adds another layer of complexity.
It sounds like a California GSM is a party in a bottle.
It can be.
Are there any specific regions within California that are known for their GSMs?
Paso Robles is definitely one to watch.
Okay.
It's a region with a warm climate, diverse soils,
Right.
and a growing reputation for producing high-quality GSM blends.
Paso Robles. I've heard great things about Paso Robles wines.
It is a great region.
What makes the region so well suited to GSM?
Paso Robles has this unique combination of warm days,
Okay.
cool nights, and a wide range of soil types, which allows the grapes to ripen fully while retaining freshness and acidity.
So they get that ripeness, but they also have that acidity
Right.
to keep the wines balanced.
Exactly. It's the perfect recipe for balanced, complex wines.
It sounds like Paso Robles is a playground for GSM enthusiasts.
It is. And then, of course, we have South Africa,
Right.
which is producing some of the most intriguing GSMs in the world right now.
I've been hearing so much buzz about South African wines lately.
Yeah, they're doing some really exciting things.
What makes their GSMs so unique?
South African GSMs often have this beautiful balance between ripe fruit and vibrant acidity,
Okay.
with a distinctive savory character that sets them apart.
Right, those savory notes we talked about earlier.
Think about notes of herbs, spices,
Yeah.
maybe even a touch of smoked meat or cured olives.
It's so interesting how you can get those flavors in wine.
It is. It's a complexity that adds another dimension to the wine
Right.
and makes it incredibly food-friendly.
What gives them that character?
It's a combination of factors.
Oh,
South Africa has diverse terroirs, ranging from mountainous regions to coastal vineyards.
mm-hmm.
And those variations in climate and soil contribute to the complexity of the wines.
So it's really showcasing the terroir.
It is. And South African winemakers are also known for their innovative spirit
Right.
and their willingness to experiment with different winemaking techniques.
So they're pushing the boundaries a little bit.
They are?
It seems like South Africa is really pushing the boundaries of what GSM can be.
Yeah, they're not afraid to try new things.
Are there any specific regions within South Africa that you'd recommend exploring?
Stellenbosch is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's one of South Africa's oldest and most prestigious wine regions.
Right.
And they're known for producing elegant, complex wines with a distinctive sense of place.
Yeah.
Their GSMs often showcase notes of black fruit pepper and fynbos.
Right, that local vegetation.
Exactly, which is the local vegetation that adds those unique savory notes.
Stellenbosch, it sounds like a region with a rich history and a strong sense of identity.
It is. And then you have Swartland, which is a region known for its dry-farmed, old vine vineyards.
Mm-hmm.
And its focus on natural winemaking.
So a little bit more of that hands-off approach.
Exactly. Swartland GSMs are typically wild and untamed,
Okay.
with expressive fruit, bright acidity, and a distinct minerality
Right.
that reflects the unique terroir of the region.
So if you're looking for GSM with a bit of an edge, Swartland is the place to go.
Exactly. They're not afraid to push the boundaries and experiment.
It seems like there's a lot of experimentation happening in South Africa,
There is.
which makes their GSMs incredibly captivating.
They are.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from the classic expressions of GSM in the Rhone Valley to the exciting interpretations in Australia, California, and South Africa.
Yeah, we've been all over the map.
It's amazing to see how this blend has captured the imagination of winemakers around the world.
It is. It's a testament to the versatility of Grenache Syrah and Mourvedre,
Right.
and their ability to create wines that are both delicious and thought-provoking.
Absolutely. But before we move on, I want to circle back to the blending process itself.
Okay.
We've talked about how winemakers have the freedom to play with the proportions of each grape.
Right.
But are there any other factors that influence the final character of a GSM blend?
The blending process is where the winemaker's art truly shines.
I like that.
It's a delicate dance of balancing flavors, textures, and aromas to create a harmonious whole.
It sounds poetic.
It is.
Yep.
And beyond the grape ratios, there are several other factors that come into play.
Like what? I'm all ears.
Well, for starters, the vineyard site is absolutely crucial.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
The soil type, the climate, the altitude, all of these things influence the character of the grapes.
Right.
And ultimately the wine.
Yeah.
Even if two winemakers are using the same grape varieties, their GSMs can taste completely different, depending on where those grapes were grown.
So it's really all about terroir.
Terroir plays a huge role.
It's like the foundation of the wine.
It's like a fingerprint. It gives each GSM its own distinct personality.
I love that analogy.
And then, of course, you have the winemaking techniques that come into play.
Right.
Maceration, fermentation, oak aging.
Mm-hmm.
All of these decisions have a profound impact on the final style of the wine.
Let's talk about those techniques in a bit more detail.
Okay.
You mentioned maceration earlier.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that process is?
Okay.
And how it affects the taste of GSM?
Maceration is the process of soaking the grape skins with the juice after the grapes have been crushed.
Okay.
It's during this time that the juice extracts color tannins and flavor compounds from the skins.
So the longer you macerate, the more intense the wine will be.
That's the general idea.
Okay.
Longer maceration times typically result in wines that are deeper in color, have more pronounced tannins,
Right.
and showcase more complex aromas.
So it's really influencing all of those aspects of the wine.
It is, but it's a balancing act.
Okay.
You don't want to extract too much tannin, or the wine can become harsh and astringent.
So it's about finding that balance.
It is.
It sounds like there's a real art to finding that sweet spot.
There is. And then you have fermentation,
Okay.
which is the process of converting sugar into alcohol.
Right.
The temperature at which you ferment the wine
Yeah.
can have a significant impact on its flavor profile.
So cooler fermentations preserve more of those delicate fruit aromas.
Exactly. Cooler fermentations tend to result in wines that are more fruit-forward, with a brighter acidity,
Right.
and a lighter, more elegant style.
So if you want a lighter style wine, you'd go with a cooler fermentation.
Exactly. Warmer fermentations, on the other hand,
Okay.
can bring out more spice and earthy notes,
Okay.
creating wines with a richer, more robust character.
So warmer fermentation, more spice,
Right.
more earthiness.
Uh-huh.
Cooler fermentation, more fruit.
Exactly.
It's amazing how something as simple as temperature can make such a big difference in the final product.
It is.
There.
And then, of course, there's oak aging, which is another tool that winemakers can use to add complexity and nuance.
Right, we talked about how oak can impart flavors like vanilla spice and even chocolate.
Yes.
But how does a winemaker decide how much oak to use and what type of oak to choose?
It's all about finding the right balance
Right.
and creating a wine that reflects their vision.
Okay.
Some winemakers might choose to age their GSMs entirely in new oak
Okay.
for a powerful oak-driven style.
So if you want a lot of oak, you go all new oak.
Exactly. While others might opt for a mix of new and old oak
Okay.
to create a more balanced and nuanced flavor profile.
So new oak barrels impart more of those oaky flavors?
Exactly. New oak barrels have a stronger impact on the wine,
Okay.
adding more tannin structure and those characteristic oaky flavors.
Hmm.
Older oak barrels, on the other hand,
Yeah.
have already given up most of their tannins and flavors.
Okay.
So they contribute more subtle aromas
Right.
and a rounder, smoother texture to the wine.
So if you don't want as much oak, you go for a mix of new and old.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about finding that balance.
It sounds like oak aging is a real art form in itself.
It is.
Yeah.
And the winemaker's decisions about oak aging play a crucial role in shaping the final expression of a GSM blend.
It's incredible how much goes into making a bottle of wine.
It really is.
We've talked about terroir grape ratios, maceration, fermentation, oak aging. It's a complex process with so many variables at play.
It is.
Yeah.
But that's what makes wine so fascinating.
Right.
There's always something new to discover, always another layer to peel back.
Well, you've definitely given me a whole new appreciation for GSM blends.
Good.
I'm ready to go out there and start exploring the world of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre.
I think you'll be amazed by what you find.
Now, before we send our listeners off on their own GSM adventures,
Okay.
let's talk about the sensory experience.
Right.
What can someone expect when they pour themselves a glass of GSM? What should they be looking for?
GSMs are a feast for the senses.
Okay.
Visually, they're known for their beautiful ruby red hues, often quite deep and rich.
So we're talking about a wine that's visually appealing right from the start.
Absolutely. And then on the nose,
Okay.
you'll be greeted by a symphony of aromas.
Okay.
Think ripe berries, warm spices,
Yeah.
maybe a hint of earthiness from the Mourvedre.
Mm-hmm.
It's an invitation to dive deeper.
It sounds intoxicating.
It can be.
And what about the taste?
Okay.
What kind of flavors and textures can we expect?
Well, that's where things get really interesting because the flavor profile of a GSM can vary widely
Right.
depending on the region,
Mm-hmm.
the grape ratios,
Right.
and the winemaking techniques used.
Right. It all comes back to those factors.
It does.
Mm.
But in general, you can expect a wine that's full-bodied
Okay.
with a luscious texture and a harmonious balance of fruit, spice, and earthy notes.
Can you break that down a bit further? What does full-bodied mean in terms of the taste experience?
It refers to the weight and texture of the wine in your mouth.
Okay.
A full-bodied wine has a certain richness and density.
Mm.
It feels substantial on the palate.
Okay.
And GSMs typically have a good amount of tannin,
Right.
which gives them that drying sensation that we talked about earlier.
Right. Tannins are those astringent compounds that make a wine feel grippy.
Exactly. And in a well-made GSM, the tannins should be present,
Mm-hmm.
but also integrated,
Okay.
meaning they're balanced by the fruit and other components of the wine.
Okay, so they're not overwhelming.
Right. They shouldn't overpower the palate.
So we're looking for a wine that has structure and complexity, but is also enjoyable to drink.
Exactly. And the beauty of GSM is that it can be both.
I like
It
that.
can have those powerful tannins and that age-worthy structure,
Mhm.
but it can also be incredibly delicious and approachable in its youth.
It sounds like GSM really does offer something for everyone.
It does. And that's part of its appeal.
Right.
Whether you're a seasoned wine enthusiast or just starting to explore the world of wine, there's a GSM out there for you.
Now, we've talked a lot about aging potential, especially with those Northern Rhone wines and Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Why do some GSMs age so well, and what kind of transformation can we expect over time?
Well, the ability of a wine to age gracefully depends on several factors,
Okay.
including its acidity,
Mm-hmm.
tannin structure,
Right.
and the complexity of its flavors.
Okay.
GSMs, especially those with higher proportions of Syrah and Mourvedre,
Right.
often have the right combination of these elements
Okay.
to develop beautifully over time.
So those robust tannins that might feel a bit grippy in a young wine
Yeah,
actually help it age gracefully.
exactly. As a GSM ages, those tannins soften and integrate.
Okay.
The fruit mellows and develops more nuanced flavors.
Right.
And the wine gains complexity and layers.
It's like it's evolving over time.
It is. What
Yeah.
kind of flavors can we expect to emerge as a GSM ages?
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
All those bright berry notes might evolve into dried fruits, like figs and prunes.
Okay.
You might also notice more pronounced leathery tobacco-like,
Interesting.
or even earthy forest floor aromas.
So it becomes a little bit more like an aged cheese.
It can.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating how a wine can transform.
It's like a slow motion magic trick happening in the bottle.
I like that analogy.
I'm starting to understand why some people are so passionate about aged wines.
It's a whole other dimension of wine appreciation.
Yeah.
And GSMs are particularly well suited to aging.
Okay.
So if you have the patience and the space, it's definitely worth laying down a few bottles for the future.
Noted. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, food pairings.
Okay.
GSMs are known for being versatile at the dinner table.
Yes, they are.
So what are some of your top pairing recommendations?
GSMs are fantastic with a wide range of dishes.
Okay.
But one of my favorite pairings is GSM with grilled meats.
Okay.
Think juicy lamb chops, a perfectly seared steak, or even some smoky barbecued ribs.
Right.
The wine's robust flavors and tannins stand up beautifully to the richness of the meat,
Yeah.
creating a truly satisfying combination.
It's that classic pairing of bold flavors, right?
It is.
The wine and the food complementing each other perfectly.
Precisely. And the slight smokiness from the grill
Yeah.
adds another layer of complexity to the pairing, making it even more delicious.
It's making me hungry just thinking about it. And what about lighter dishes?
Okay.
Can GSMs work with those as well, or are they strictly for bold flavors?
Don't underestimate the versatility of GSM.
Okay.
While they can certainly hold their own against those hearty dishes,
Right.
they can also be surprisingly elegant and nuanced with lighter fare.
I'm curious, what would be an example of a lighter dish that would pair well with GSM?
A classic roasted chicken comes to mind.
Okay.
Think about a simple preparation,
Yeah.
maybe with some herbes de Provence tucked under the skin.
Okay.
The GSM's fruitiness and spice would complement the chicken beautifully,
Mm-hmm.
and the tannins would provide a nice counterpoint to the richness of the bird.
That sounds like a perfect Sunday dinner pairing.
It is. And if you're looking for a vegetarian option,
Okay.
GSMs can also be lovely with roasted vegetables. Think eggplant, zucchini, bell peppers.
Yeah.
All those Mediterranean flavors that echo the origins of the blend.
It's like bringing a taste of the Rhone Valley to your dinner table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those earthy notes in the wine
Mm-hmm.
pair beautifully with the roasted vegetable sweetness and slight char.
That's a great tip.
And of course, we can't forget about cheese.
Right?
GSM and cheese seem like a match made in heaven.
They do. What are some cheeses that you'd recommend trying with GSM?
Oh, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
GSM is a cheese lover's dream.
It does sound like it.
It can handle everything from hard-aged cheeses like cheddar and Gruyere
Okay.
to softer, creamier options like Brie and Camembert.
Right.
And don't be afraid to explore some of those bolder blue cheeses as well.
Oh, I love blue cheese.
Me too.
Uh,
It's a great pairing with GSM.
what is it about GSM that makes it such a versatile cheese pairing partner?
Well, the tannins play a big role here.
Okay.
They help to cut through the richness of the cheese and cleanse the palate between bites.
Right, like a palate cleanser.
Exactly. And the wine's fruitiness and spice
Yeah.
create a lovely counterpoint to the cheese's savory notes.
It's all about that balance, isn't it?
It is. It's all about finding that balance and creating a symphony of flavors.
It sounds like GSM is a wine that encourages exploration,
It does.
both in terms of the different styles and regions
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of food pairing possibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
It sounds like a really fun wine to work with.
It is. There's always something new to discover with GSM.
Oh, I think you've inspired me to go on my own GSM adventure.
Excellent.
I'm ready to stock my cellar with bottles from all over the world
That's the spirit.
and experiment with all sorts of delicious food pairings.
I think you'll have a lot of fun with it.
I think so too. It really does seem like there are endless possibilities with GSM.
There are.
And you know, it's funny
Yeah,
because sometimes wine can feel a bit intimidating.
I know what you mean.
Like there's a right way to taste it or appreciate it.
Right.
But it sounds like with GSM, it's really all about finding what you enjoy.
Exactly. There's no need to overthink it.
Right.
You know, if you find a GSM that you love, That's all that matters.
Okay, good to know. I'm feeling much less pressure now.
Good.
So speaking of finding what you love, let's talk about those magical moments when wine meets food.
Okay.
We've touched on GSM's versatility at the dinner table, but I'd love to hear more about your favorite pairing recommendations.
Well, we talked about grilled meats earlier,
Right?
and that's definitely a classic pairing for a reason.
Yeah, it just seems so natural.
It does. The wine's robust flavors and tannins stand up beautifully to the richness of the meat.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about that combination of smoky flavors and juicy protein that just works so well with GSM.
Can you paint a picture for me?
Okay.
What's a specific dish that you'd pair with a GSM?
Oh, that's a tough one because there's so many good options.
I know, right?
But let's say you're grilling some lamb chops
Okay.
with a rosemary garlic marinade.
Oh.
The lamb's richness and slight gaminess
Yeah.
would be perfectly complemented by a GSM with good acidity and those herbal notes we've been talking about.
Yeah, I can practically taste it now.
I know, right?
And it seems like those tannins play a key role in the pairing as well, right?
Absolutely.
They help to cut through the fattiness of the meat.
Exactly. Tannins act like a palate cleanser,
Right.
and they also create a textural contrast
Okay.
with the richness of the food.
So it's adding another dimension.
It is. It's
Mm.
all about finding that harmony between the wine and the dish.
It's like a dance on your taste buds.
It is.
Now I'm wondering about lighter dishes.
Okay.
Can GSMs work with those as well, or are they strictly for bold flavors?
Don't underestimate the versatility of GSM.
Okay.
While they can certainly hold their own against those hearty dishes,
Right.
they can also be surprisingly elegant and nuanced with lighter fare.
I'm curious, what would be an example of a lighter dish that would pair well with GSM?
A classic roasted chicken comes to mind.
Yeah.
Think about a simple preparation,
Yeah.
maybe with some herbs of Provence tucked under the skin.
Mm-hmm.
The GSM's fruitiness and spice would complement the chicken beautifully,
Okay.
and the tannins would provide a nice counterpoint to the richness of the bird.
That sounds like a perfect weeknight meal.
It is.
Easy to prepare, but still elevated with the right wine pairing.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned earlier that GSM can also work well with vegetarian dishes.
You're right.
What are some of your go-to vegetarian pairings?
Well, I love roasted vegetables, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Roasted vegetables are always a winner.
Okay.
Think eggplant, zucchini, bell peppers.
Yeah.
All those Mediterranean flavors that echo the origins of GSM.
It's like bringing a taste of the Southern Rhone to your plate.
Exactly. And those earthy notes in the wine
Yeah.
pair beautifully with the roasted vegetable sweetness and slight char.
That's a great tip.
And of course, we can't forget about cheese,
Yeah.
everyone's favorite wine pairing companion.
What are some cheeses that you'd recommend trying with GSM?
Oh, where do I even begin?
So many cheeses.
GSM is a cheese lover's dream.
It does sound like it.
It can handle everything from hard-aged cheeses like cheddar and Gruyere
Okay.
to softer, creamier options like Brie and Camembert.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to explore some of those bolder blue cheeses as well.
Oh, I love blue cheese.
Me too. It's
Yeah.
a great pairing with GSM.
It really is.
Oh.
What is it about GSM that makes it such a versatile cheese pairing partner?
Well, the tannins play a big role here.
Okay.
They help to cut through the richness of the cheese
Right.
and cleanse the palate between bites.
Like a palate cleanser.
Exactly. And the wine's fruitiness and spice
Right.
create a lovely counterpoint to the cheese's savory notes.
It's all about that balance, isn't it?
It is. It's all about finding that balance and creating a symphony of flavors.
It sounds like GSM is a wine that encourages exploration,
It does.
both in terms of the different styles and regions and in terms of food pairing possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
It sounds like a really fun wine to work with.
It is. There's always
Yeah.
something new to discover with GSM.
Well, I think you've inspired me to go on my own GSM adventure.
Excellent.
I'm ready to stock my cellar with bottles from all over the world
That's the spirit.
and experiment with all sorts of delicious food pairings.
I think you'll have a lot of fun with it.
I think so too. So as we wrap up this deep dive into GSM,
Okay.
is there any final piece of advice you want to leave our listeners with?
You know, as you continue your GSM journey, keep in mind that this blend is constantly evolving.
Okay.
Winemakers are always experimenting with new techniques, new terroirs, new approaches to blending these three grapes.
So it's a dynamic blend.
It really is.
Yeah.
So stay curious, keep tasting, and you'll be amazed by the incredible diversity and deliciousness that the world of GSM has to offer.
Beautifully said. I love that. It's a journey of endless possibilities.
It is.
So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to raise a glass to GSM and all its delicious variations.
Cheers to that.
Until next time, happy exploring.